The Bible in a year, day 46, Leviticus 24 through 25. The Lord said to Moses, "Order the Israelites to bring you clear oil of crushed olives for the light, so that you may keep the lamp burning regularly in the tent of meeting outside the veil that hangs in front of the covenant. Aaron shall set up the lamp and to burn before the Lord regularly, from the evening until morning, by a perpetual statute throughout your generations. He shall set up the lamps of pure gold menorah to burn regularly before the Lord. You shall take bran flour and bake it into 12 cakes, using 2/10 of an ephah of flour for each cake. These you shall place in 2 piles, 6 in each pile of pure gold, the pure gold table before the Lord, which each pile put some pure frankincense, which shall serve as an oblation to the Lord, a token of the bread offering regularly on each Sabbath day. The bread shall be set out before the Lord on behalf of the Israelites by an everlasting covenant. It shall belong to Aaron and his sons, who must eat it in a sacred place, since it is most sacred. His as a perpetual due from the oblations to the Lord. A man born of an Israelite mother and an Egyptian father went out among the Israelites, and in the camp a fight broke out between the son of the Israelite woman and an Israelite man. The son of the Israelite woman uttered the Lord's name in a curse and blasphemed. So he was brought to Moses. Now his mother's name was Shelomith, the daughter of Dibri of the tribe of Dan, and he was kept in custody till a decision from the Lord should settle the case for them. The Lord then said to Moses, "Take the blasphemer outside the camp." And when all who heard him laid their hands on his head, let the whole community stone him. Tell the Israelites, anyone who blasphemes God shall bear the penalty. Whoever utters the name of the Lord in a curse shall be put to death. The whole community shall stone that person, alien and native born alike, must be put to death for uttering the Lord's name in a curse. Whoever takes the life of any human being shall be put to death. Whoever takes the life of an animal shall make restitution of another animal, life for a life. Anyone who inflicts a permanent injury on his or her neighbor shall receive the same in return. Fracture for fracture, eye for eye, tooth for tooth. The same injury that one gives another shall be inflicted in return. Whoever takes the life of an animal shall make restitution, but whoever takes a human life shall be put to death. You shall have but one rule for alien and native born alike. I, the Lord, am your God. When Moses told this to the Israelites, they took the blasphemer outside the camp and stoned him. They did just as the Lord commanded Moses. The Lord said to Moses on Mount Sinai, "Speak to the Israelites and tell them, when you enter the land that I am giving you, let the land too keep a Sabbath for the Lord. For 6 years you may sow your field. For 6 years prune your vineyard, gathering in the produce. But during the 7th year the land shall have a Sabbath of complete rest, a Sabbath for the Lord, when you may neither sow your field nor prune your vineyard. The aftergrowth of your harvest you shall not reap, nor shall you pick the grapes of your untrimmed vines. It shall be a year of rest for the land. When the land has its Sabbath, all its produce will be food to eat for you yourself and for your male and female slaves, for your laborer and the tenant who live with you, and likewise for your livestock and for the wild animals on your land. You shall count 7 weeks of years, 7 times 7 years. Much of the 7 weeks of years amount to 49 years. Then on the 10th day of the 7th month, let the ram's horns resound on this day of atonement. The ram's horn blast shall resound throughout your land, and you shall treat the 15th year as sacred. You shall proclaim liberty in the land for all its inhabitants. It shall be a jubilee for you, when each of you shall return to your own prosperity, each of you to your own family. This 15th year is your year of jubilee. You shall not sow, nor shall you reap, and after the aftergrowth, or pick the untrimmed vines, since this is the jubilee. It shall be sacred for you. You may only eat what the field yields of itself. This is the year of jubilee. Then each of you shall return to your own property. Therefore, when you sell any land to your neighbor to buy from your neighbor, do not deal unfairly with one another. On the basis of the number of years since the last jubilee, you shall purchase the land from your neighbor, and also on the basis of the number of the years of harvest, that person shall sell it to you. When the years are many, the price shall be so much the more. When the years are few, the price shall be so much the less, for it is really the number of harvests that the person sells you. Do not deal unfairly with one another, then, but stand in fear of your God. I, the Lord, am your God. Observe my statutes and be careful to keep my ordinances, so that you will dwell securely in the land. The land will yield its fruit, and you will eat your fill and live there securely. And if you say, what shall we eat in the 7th year? If we do not sow or reap our crop, I will command such a blessing for you in the 6th year that there will be a crop enough for 3 years. And when you sow in the 8th year, you will still be eating from the old crop, even into the 9th year, until the crop comes in. You will still be eating from the old crop. The land shall not be sold irrevocably, for the land is mine, and you are but resident aliens and under my authority. Therefore, in every part of the country that you occupy, you must permit the land to be redeemed. When one of your kindred is reduced to property and has to sell some property, that person's closest relative, who has the duty to redeem it, shall come and redeem what the relative has sold. If whoever the person has no relative to redeem, but later acquires sufficient means to redeem it, the person shall recalculate the years since the sale, return the balance to one whom it was sold, and thus regain the property. But if the person does not acquire sufficient means to buy back the land, what was sold shall remain in the possession of the purchaser until the year of Jubilee, when it must be released and returned to the original owner. When someone sells a dwelling in a walled town, it can be redeemed up to a full year after its sale. The redemption period is 1 year, but if such a house in a walled town has not been redeemed at the end of the full year, it shall belong irrevocably to the purchaser throughout the generations. It shall not be released in the Jubilee. However, houses in the villages that are not encircled by walls shall be reckoned as part of the surrounding farmland. They may be redeemed, and in the Jubilee they must be released. In the Levitical cities, the Levites shall always have the right to redeem the houses in the cities that are in their possessions. As for the Levitical property that goes unredeemed, houses sold in the cities of their possessions shall be released in the Jubilee, for the houses in Levitical cities are in their possession in the midst of the Israelites. Moreover, the pasture land belonging to their cities shall not be sold at all. It must always remain in their possession. When one of your kindred is reduced to property and becomes indebted to you, you shall support that person like a resident alien. Let your kindred live with you. Do not exact interest in advance or accrued interest, but out of fear of God, let your kindred live with you. Do not give your money at interest or your food at a profit. I, the Lord, am your God, who brought you out of the land of Egypt to give you the land of Canaan and to be your God. When your kindred with you, having been reduced to property, sell themselves to you, do not make them work as slaves. Rather, let them be like laborers or like your tenants working with you until the Jubilee year, when together with any children they shall be released from your service and return to their family and to their ancestral property, since they are my servants, whom I brought out of the land of Egypt. They shall not sell themselves as slaves are sold. Do not lord it over them harshly, but stand in fear of your Lord. The male and female slaves that you possess, these you shall acquire from the nations around you. You may also acquire them from among the resident aliens who reside with you, and from their families who are with you, those whom they bore in your land. These you may possess and bequeath to your children as their hereditary possessions forever. You may treat them as slaves, but none of you shall lord it harshly over any of your fellow Israelites. When your kindred, having been so reduced to property, sell themselves to a resident alien who has become wealthy, or to descendants of a resident alien's family, even having sold themselves, they still may be redeemed by one of the kindred, by an uncle or cousin, or by some other relative from their family, or having acquired the means, they may pay the redemption price themselves. With the purchaser, they shall continue the years for the sale to the Jubilee, distributing the sale price over these years as though they had been hired as laborers. The more years there are, the more of the sale price they shall pay back as the redemption price. The fewer years there are before the Jubilee year, the more they have as credit in proportion to the years of service. They shall pay the redemption price. The tenant alien shall treat those who sold themselves as laborers hired on an annual basis, and the alien shall not lord it over them harshly before your very eyes. And if they are not redeemed by these means, they shall nevertheless be released, together with any children in the Jubilee year. For the Israelites belong to me as servants. They are my servants, whom I brought out of the land of Egypt. I, the Lord, your God. This is the word of the Lord.